Qapekbehti, which for the sake of my throat, I'll be calling Qapekbehti. This desert, on the inland of the Elixir Peninsula, has been home to countless kingdoms, powers, and empires. Though today the area is split between its long-lost grandchildren, Qapekbehti was the birthplace of countless aspects of society that today many people would take for granted. We're going to be looking at one thing in particular, the world's first empire, Myajugnabg. Hi, I'm Time for TR. TR is a fantasy world I've been working on for a few years, and will probably keep working on for quite a while. This is a showcase of part of what I've been working on. Hope you guys enjoy. Sometime around 100 years after the spontaneous appearance of the world and the entire cosmos, some proto-Elixir tribes came to the desert from the Qapekbehti mountains. Eventually, these people set up settlements all over the river systems of the Qapekbehti and Qapekbehti. These settlements would eventually grow into massive cities for the time. These people would go on to live in city-states for the next 500 years or so. Now, each and every one of these villages could have a video all to themselves, but for now I'm going to be focusing on Ullun, both because it was the largest for a long time, and also because it has a lot of aspects that make it typical as a Qapekbehtian city. To begin, if you were to take a close look at the ruins of the city today, you'd find something fascinating, and that is that the city seems very carefully planned out, and this is by design. The city was built multiple times on top of itself with the kind of preparedness for future population growth that modern city planners only wish they had the kind of funding for. The Qapekbehtians placed great cultural importance on city planning and considered it to be a form of art, so much so that the Proto-Qapekbehtian word for city planner, Figlottimpun, means artist of the river, referring to how cities were almost always built on rivers, and how making a city would also include making an irrigation system. So, if we look at the layout of Ullun, there are a few things that immediately stand out. To begin, we have the Shitfabr and the Jatfabr, the outer and inner walls respectively. Important stuff such as food stocks, homes of the wealthy, accounting offices, and temples would go on the inside of the inner walls, whereas less important things like markets and the poor would go inside the outer walls. Farmland would go outside the city as a whole, not because they were the least important, but because the irrigation made the farmland wet and hard for any invading army to walk through. By the way, the temple of the city went right next to that river, and this was really common. See, the rivers Qapekbehti and their Qapekbehti were very volatile and prone to flooding, so the fact that priests could communicate with the gods made them very powerful figures, so much so that they doubled as political figures. It was believed that by building these places of worship, also known as Myajugnabg, next to a river, the high priest could control the river with more accuracy. Now, I would love to go further into the Artislerblaun and the Forkidr and the Advabl Ullu, but I kinda want this video to take less than 5 hours to upload, so we're gonna move on. And what are we moving on to? Oh, nothing much. Just the collapse of religious leadership and the rise of territorial kingdoms in the region. Okay, so in the year 992, the high priest in the city of Myajugnabg inside the Qapekbehti region received a visit, and it went something like this. Hi, I'm Qapekbehti, the child of a wealthy family. Are you the guy that controls literally everything in our society? Well, yes, I am the guy that controls literally everything in our society. Cool. Can I be that guy? What? Can I be the guy that controls literally everything in our society? But I'm that guy. Yeah, but like, what if you weren't? What? No. Can you talk to the gods? Yeah, okay, so I can't... so. Look, the only people that have power here are me and my family, so... Okay, cool, thanks. Phew, glad that's sorted with. I'm sure they won't be any trouble ever again. And so, Pshartasamp married the high priest's son and declared himself king. This ended up happening all over Qapekbehti, and soon kingdoms became the majority form of government. Now you might be thinking, Time for TR, if this was happening everywhere, why are you just focusing on Myajugnabg? Well there, RJ, the answer is very simple. And you're stupid. See, good old Pshartasamp had an idea. He saw the world and he wanted it. So in about 650 years, he and his children ended up taking it, spreading their language and culture with them. The empire reached its territorial height in the year 1632 when they conquered the city-state of Hannadr. Now, the government didn't want to stop there, but neighboring Nathlabjun tribes proved themselves to be somewhat unconquerable. The sheer amount of resources that the army spent into trying, though, ended up making some people kind of angry. The empire would end up collapsing after a series of rebellions. The cultural impacts of the empire, however, were unquestionable. By now, the various dialects of the original Proto-Qapekbehti had split into entirely different languages, with the Qapekbehti and their language becoming romanticized amongst their cousins after being spread by the empire. Eventually, this would lead to a stereotype of being classy and sophisticated, while also arrogant and pedantic. That's not even mentioning the fact that the empire was home to some of the world's first literature. Hey, why are you writing? Salt shipment isn't due for another week. Yeah, so listen, I've done this thing. I've written something that isn't true. I call it a story. You're crazy. I think I'm going to leave it there for now, because these videos take a surprising amount of time to make, and I kind of want to get this one out of the way. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please consider liking the video and adding a comment. If you especially think I deserved it, consider subscribing to see more of this kind of stuff. I already got my goal of 30 subs by the end of the year, so let's maybe try and get to 50. Anyway, see ya.